Why is Japan called Japan in English when the Japanese call their country Nihon? Well, it's a long history, beginning with the Chinese insulting the Japanese and the Japanese getting all pissy about it and deciding to change their name. But first, we gotta talk about the modern Japanese name for the country. Nihon means origin of the sun. Lovely, right? Well, it wasn't always so. Long before Japan became the land of the rising sun, it was the land of the mildly insulted. It all started 2,000 years ago. The oldest recorded name for Japan came from the Chinese in the Han Dynasty. The Chinese had invented writing over 1,000 years earlier, but hadn't shared with the class yet. From the Han Dynasty onwards, Chinese documents used this character to call the people who lived in those islands to the east that had delightful convenience stores. It's pronounced wo. Countless deaths have occurred among historians from the fierce debate over why the Chinese chose this character. Some optimistic scholars who thought the world ran on candy and rainbows believe that the character wo was chosen because it had a similar sound to what the Japanese called themselves, wa. For example, the Japanese word ware means I, and waga means my. Other historians, jaded by years of studying conflicts and betrayals and the human condition, and that's just from their romantic lives, these historians believe that there was a less friendly reason for the name. If you look at the character wo, you can see why. It's made up of 3 parts: person, grain, and woman. So you can see grain is right above woman, like a woman carrying grain on her curved back. And all 3 together can mean bent people or submissive people. Nowhere is it acceptable to insult your neighbor literarily like this. Hi, Morningwood. It's Mo Ingwood. The Chinese text Wei Zhi, written in 297 AD, says that the Japanese show respect by squatting or kneeling with both hands on the ground. Maybe that was how the bent people idea came about. There is another claim that the character wo was related to the character ai, meaning dwarf. But this association likely happened later, and it wasn't the original meaning. Fast forward a few centuries, some Japanese nobles were at a poetry jam and thought their poems were such bangers they needed to be written down. Unfortunately, they realized, whoops, we never made a writing system. So they did what any panicking student would do in a pinch. They copied from the Chinese. That was when they encountered the Chinese character for their country, which the Japanese tongue turned into wa. And they used it for a while. Pretty soon, the Japanese got wise to the whole submissive bowing people thing, and were less than charmed. Hold on, guys, we really out here calling ourselves the land of the bowing submissives? That's crazy. In the 700s, Japanese writers replaced that submissive bower character with a more flattering one that means harmony and peace, still pronounced wa in Japanese. Now, the Japanese weren't just sitting around being called Bendy McBenderson for thousands of years beforehand. Long before the written language, the Japanese had a spoken language, and in this language, they called the country and its people Yamato, after the Yamato clan that started the Japanese imperial family. At first, they also wrote Yamato using that old bowing people character. Then they switched to the new peace and harmony character, so this one could be read as wa or Yamato. Eventually, when referring to the country, the Japanese added this character in front, which means great. This was them copying China again. There's an ancient Chinese art called sounding important. They liked to add the word great in front of dynasty names, like Great Tang or Great Qing. This art is also used by the British. The Japanese thought this was kinda neat, so they did it with their own name. It literally means Great Wa. Or you could also pronounce it Yamato. Now this whole writing thing was really catching on, so people thought, why not make up some other cool names for the country? In the 600s, they started calling the country by these characters, meaning origin of the sun, or more poetically, the land of the rising sun. This poetic translation comes from an event in 607 AD when Japanese Empress Suiko sent a message to the Chinese Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty that starts out a bit sassy. The Son of Heaven in the land where the sun rises addresses a letter to the Son of Heaven in the land where the sun sets. The Chinese emperor was pissed off at this disrespect and ordered that such a letter never again be brought to his attention. Why? Because by calling herself a son of heaven, she placed herself on the same level as the Chinese emperor when she was supposed to be from an inferior bowing state, spending her days bowing to bears and deer. How dare this side character announce she's now the protagonist? The emperor rejected the letter and sent a diplomat to teach the Japanese how to properly communicate with their superiors. Afterwards, though, the relationship between the two countries went back to normal, with both sides interpreting the event as a win for themselves. All this to say that every time you mention Land of the Rising Sun, you're kinda roasting China. Anyways, this new name was pronounced Nippon by the Japanese. They were serious about it. In 703, they sent envoys to China to tell the Chinese, hey, can you guys cool it with the wa thing? From now on, we're known as Nippon, and we bow to no one, except people we meet for the first time, and anyone who we happen to lightly inconvenience. The terms wa and Yamato didn't go away, but during the Heian period, they were slowly being replaced by the shiny new word Nippon. Over time, the P sound softened to become Nihon. Around the Edo period, it softened even more to become Nihon, the pronunciation used today. But Nippon is also still used. From 1868 to 1947, the official name of the country was Dainihon Teikoku, or Dainippon Teikoku, which means Great Japanese Empire. After the Great Japanese Empire became the Greatly Embarrassed Japanese Empire, they threw a bunch of characters out the window in shame and were left with Nihon. Now, if the Japanese called their own country Nihon, where did the English word Japan come from? Sounds nothing like Nihon. Well, this is a case of a country's name not coming from the people of that country, but from foreigners. Let's go back in time to see if we can pinpoint the origin. The first ever recorded English word for the country came from a book in 1577, which used the name Jiapang. This name came from earlier in the 1500s when Portuguese traders first heard from Indonesians and Malaysians, a country they called Jepang, Jipang, and Jepun. As contact intensified, there were all kinds of versions of this from different peoples in Asia. These names rolled off the tongue and into the ears of European merchants, who then scribbled down what they sounded like. Jiapang was one of the versions that packed its bags and traveled to the English-speaking world. Before Jiapang, Europeans mainly used another word, Cipangu. This one came from the Venetian merchant Marco Polo, famous for mistaking a rhinoceros for a unicorn. So when Marco went on a family trip with his dad to China, he heard stories of this land to the east where the animated girls were wild. In 1295, as a souvenir, he brought back this name, Cipangu. But where did he get the word Cipangu? It was his own translation from Chinese. The Chinese did end up using these characters for Japan, but while the Japanese called their country Nippon, the Chinese originally called it something more like Jiapang or Zepang or Zipun, depending on which Chinese dialect or language he heard it from, we're not sure. When you add the Chinese character for country, you get Jipangguo or Zepangguo or Zipunguo. Hey, I'm trying, okay? It means the country where the sun rises. Marco Polo translated it into Jipangu. So it was originally from the Chinese pronunciation of the Japanese name Nippon that we got the English word Japan. Nowadays, we see both Nihon and Nippon, but may the gods of grammar have mercy on you if you're trying to find a consistent rule. Nihon is more common in everyday language. If you want to say Japanese person, it's Nihonjin. But for names of government departments and official things, it's often Nippon. The Bank of Japan is officially Nippon Ginko, but people usually call it Nihon Ginko, because of course they do. There's a district in Tokyo called Nihonbashi, but there's a different district in Osaka with the same characters but pronounced Nipponbashi. Alright, quiz time. For those paying attention, knowing that one form is used for official business, which do you expect the Japanese passport to use? Nippon, Yamato, or wa? Nope, it's Japan. What the? Now, because Nippon is used when talking about official government things, it has a more nationalistic tone. So if someone is going around calling the country Nippon all the time, you can be sure that person does not believe in Japanese war crimes during World War II. Now, if you liked the word wa, it hasn't gone away. Normally, it's used when talking about something traditional. Waka is traditional Japanese poetry. Do you know wagaki band? There's that character wa, and gaki means musical instruments. The band uses traditional Japanese instruments like the shamisen, the koto, and the cute girl. Of course, Japan is just the English word. Other languages have other pronunciations. There is a word for Japan that some say is the first name the Japanese called their country, before they had a written language, when people were still trying to figure out whether to eat raw fish or worship it. The name is Oyashimaguni. which means the great country of 8 islands. Back then, the Japanese recognized 8 main islands. Hokkaido and Okinawa were not yet part of Japan. Now, people did use the number 8 as another way to say a lot. So Oyashimaguni could have meant the great country of many islands. Thing is, the first mention of this name is in the Kojiki, written in 712 AD, after the country had already rebranded itself as Nippon. And there's no evidence the name was widely used in spoken language, so it was likely a made-up name after the fact, not a name that the ancients used. The Japanese took names very seriously. They passed them down and even used names to change their past. Click here to learn all about the politics of names. We have a new patron on Patreon today, the happy wife of Stephen Cohen. She seems happy. Alright, I love you, and spread the knowledge.